A single moment changed everything. Doctors said she would never walk again. Money couldn't fix it. Power couldn't buy it. But when a single father refused to give up, something happened that no one, especially her mother, was prepared to witness. The doctors called it rare, complicated, and irreversible. Those were the words that echoed through the white hospital room as 8-year-old Lily lay on the bed, her legs still, her eyes searching her parents' faces for answers they didn't have. Just weeks earlier, she had been running through the backyard, laughing, racing the sun before dinner. Now, she couldn't even lift her feet. Specialists flew in. Tests piled up. Scans lit the walls like grim artwork. Money was never an issue. Her mother's family spared no expense, bringing in billionaire-funded doctors, experimental therapies, and private consultations that promised hope but delivered silence. Each visit ended the same way, with lowered voices and careful pauses. Finally, one doctor spoke the words that broke everything. Lily would likely never walk again. Her mother collapsed into a chair, hands shaking, breath stolen from her chest. Years of certainty, privilege, and control crumbled in seconds. No amount of wealth could buy back what was slipping away. In the corner of the room, Lily's father stood quietly, absorbing every word, refusing to look away. In silence, Lily's father, Mark, didn't look like someone anyone expected answers from. He wore worn jeans, a faded jacket, hands rough from long shifts and longer nights. In rooms filled with polished shoes and expensive watches, he was invisible. Doctors spoke over him, around him, rarely to him. When he asked questions, they answered politely, then turned back to the mother with reassurance wrapped in authority. Mark listened instead of arguing. He noticed things no chart recorded. How Lily's toes twitched when she laughed. How her legs stiffened less when he held her hands. How fear made her body lock, but calm let it soften. He remembered teaching her to ride a bike. How she fell again and again until she trusted him enough to let go. One night, long after visiting hours ended, he sat beside her bed and made a promise he didn't know how to keep. He told her he believed her legs remembered more than the doctors thought. Lily squeezed his fingers, hopeful but tired. When Mark suggested trying something different, less machines, more movement, no one took him seriously. They said he was grieving. They said false hope was dangerous. But walking out of that hospital, Mark made a quiet decision. If no one else would fight this way, he would. Mark brought Lily home against nearly everyone's advice. The hospital felt safe to others, but to him it had become a place where hope slowly suffocated. At home, there were no machines humming through the night, no strangers poking and measuring, just sunlight through the windows and a father who refused to rush. Every morning, he sat Lily on the living room rug and talked to her like nothing was broken. They started small, fingers first, then toes. He guided her legs gently, never forcing, never pushing past fear. Some days, nothing happened. Other days, her muscles responded with the faintest movement, like a whisper answering a call. Mark turned it into a routine. Music she loved, games that distracted her from effort, encouragement instead of commands. He celebrated things no doctor would bother noting: how long she could sit up, how relaxed her legs felt when she laughed. Lily's mother watched from a distance, torn between hope and dread. She worried Mark was setting their daughter up for a heartbreak. She had seen the reports, the scans, the expert opinions. Love couldn't change biology, or so she believed, but slowly, something undeniable began to shift. Lily started asking to try again. She focused harder. Her legs didn't feel as heavy. One afternoon, she pushed against the floor without realizing it and froze when she noticed Mark didn't cheer. He didn't panic. He just smiled softly and said, "See, your body's listening." And for the first time in weeks, Lily believed it. It happened on an ordinary afternoon, the kind that usually passed without expectations. Rain tapped softly against the windows as Lily stood between the couch and Mark's steady hands. Her heart pounded, not from effort, but from fear. She had tried before and failed before, and failure still lived in her muscles. "Just stand," Mark said gently. "I've got you." Lily planted her feet. Her knees shook violently, teeth clenched, breath shallow. For a moment, nothing happened. Then something shifted. Not strength, not magic, balance. She straightened. Mark loosened his grip, just enough. Time slowed. Lily's eyes widened as she realized she wasn't falling. She lifted one foot, hesitated, then placed it down in front of her. One step. At that exact moment, the front door opened. Her mother froze, grocery bags slipping from her fingers, apples rolling across the floor unnoticed. She watched, unable to breathe, as her daughter took another trembling step toward the man who refused to let her quit. "No," she whispered, shaking. "This isn't possible." Lily wobbled, nearly collapsing, but Mark caught her, laughing through tears. The sound broke something open. Her mother dropped to her knees, sobbing openly, hands over her mouth, witnessing a miracle no machine had predicted. In that living room, everything they believed about limits shattered quietly, completely, forever that day. The room filled quickly after that. Phone calls were made with shaking hands. Doctors arrived expecting exaggeration, excuses, coincidence. They stopped mid-sentence when Lily stood again, gripping her father's fingers, feet planted firmly on the floor. No machines, no wires, just a child standing where science had drawn a hard line. Her mother couldn't stop crying. She apologized over and over, not just to Mark, but to Lily for the moments she had believed hope was dangerous. She pressed her forehead to her daughter's and wept like the weight of months finally found a way out. The doctor spoke in hushed tones, flipping through charts that suddenly felt useless. They asked Mark what treatment he used, what protocol, what intervention. He shook his head slowly. There was no secret, no breakthrough device, just patience, trust, refusing to let fear dictate what was possible. Lily took another step, then another. Each one landed like thunder in the silent room. One doctor finally said it out loud. "We focused on what she couldn't do. You focused on what she still could." Mark didn't smile. He just knelt beside his daughter, steadying her as she swayed, whispering the same words he always had. "I told you." Your body remembered. And in that moment, everyone else finally did too. Weeks later, Lily walked into the same hospital that once defined her limits. No wheelchair, no fear, just careful steps and a smile that carried quiet victory. Nurses stopped, doctors stared, some wiped their eyes. At home, laughter replaced silence. Her mother watched Mark differently now, not as a man clinging to impossible hope, but as someone who had listened when others stopped believing. She held his hand tighter, grateful beyond words. Lily never forgot who stayed when answers ran out. She knew money couldn't teach her legs to trust again. Love did. Mark never called it a miracle. He called it persistence, showing up every day, refusing to accept a future built only on fear. Some stories aren't about defying science. They're about remembering humanity. If this moment reminds you that hope can survive where logic ends, carry it with you. Because sometimes the strongest force in the room isn't wealth, power, or expertise. It's someone who refuses to give up.